Your dream died and you keep pretending it didn't. You still do the things you once called moving toward the dream, but the part of you that cared has gone quiet. You show yourself statistics, plans, screenshots, checkmarks, deadlines, and you wait for one of those facts to bring the feeling back. It won't, you know it, and you keep going anyway. You tell yourself, I'm just tired. Now's not the time. I need to get it together. Even though it isn't about tiredness or timing, you cling to the process because it's terrifying to admit the emptiness. By the end, you'll understand why progress stops feeling good right when it becomes stable. You'll see how a dream quietly turns into a habit and an external report, and you'll see what that dryness was actually doing to you. Night. A tiny apartment. The camera stubbornly steadies in your hands as you smooth out an old sheet of paper that once had something personal on it, grand or funny, but yours. Then those same fingers flatten the paper the way you smooth a crumpled task, not a memory. A mug of strong coffee sits nearby, the smell sharp, almost hostile, and the cold air in the room nips at the skin on your wrists. On the laptop, graphs blink, notifications flash, numbers that look important because they pulse. Your fingers turn the dream into a clean to-do list: shooting plan, budget, publishing schedule. The keys click, the fan hums, your shoulders feel heavy, like they haven't relaxed in a week. Then the publish button, and your eyes stay empty, even though the screen is alive. This isn't only about videos or working for yourself. It happens when you answer messages the right way because there's a rule to stay connected. When you build a relationship by timetable, a call, a meeting, we should talk about the future, and everything looks proper, but you have nothing to bring. When you make decisions like filling out a form, choose, approve, close. Even rest can turn into this. You plan the weekend to prove you have a life, then dutifully live out that plan. Outwardly, motion. Inside, the thing that once made the motion alive is missing. At first, it seems like the problem is that you've been walking too long without a reward, but more often it's the opposite. The reward became too predictable. You know in advance what happens if you take the step. You know how many likes on average, what reaction will come, how the numbers will move, how a person will reply if you message first, how the conversation will end if you start it correctly. And the brain stops giving that inner yes, because for it, joy is an honest payback for effort. It's surprise, something you couldn't confidently predict. When everything gets turned into a forecast, the feeling fades, not because you got worse, but because you removed the element of surprise. Notice, the same result the first time sounds huge, the 20th time it's just noise. The first published video felt like an event even if 10 people watched. The first, "we'll be fine," in a relationship felt like a promise. The 100th time it's a sentence you say so things don't fall apart. The first paycheck for your own idea proved it was real. Later, money becomes a chart, the chart becomes routine, and the routine stops touching you. You aren't worse, you just became predictable to yourself. It sounds like growing up until it turns into emptiness. The worst part is that you don't stop. You keep going because the plan is built, because others are watching, because you've invested so much time it's scary to cancel, because if you stop, there will be silence. In that silence, the question isn't what now, but what was this for? So you don't let yourself have silence, you fill it with tasks. The list makes things easier, control feels like living, but more often it's life dictated by external signals, notifications, metrics, expectations, plans you can show. And here's the shift that first feels like an insult. Maybe the dream didn't disappear. Maybe it just stopped being a dream and became a survival mechanism, not a beautiful meaning, but a way to keep yourself working. You do the tasks not because you want to, but because they stop you from failing, from feeling useless, from the shame of losing your role. The plan replaced the fire inside, because fire can't survive endless reporting. Fire needs risk. Survival needs repetition. You chose repetition because it's safer. You see it in the details. Coffee is no longer about taste, but function. Night is no longer about quiet, but about time when no one interrupts your checklist. You hit publish and immediately look not at what you made, but how it will be measured. You open the stats before you even feel like you released something. You read comments as a rundown, not as contact. You reply to keep the flow alive. And somewhere inside, you still remember that it began differently, not for the flow, but for your own impulse. What becomes scary isn't a lack of motivation, it's the thought that you could live like this for years, doing the right things, staying stable and productive, and slowly losing yourself because you measure yourself in someone else's units. Numbers don't lie, but they don't say who you are. A schedule doesn't deceive, but it doesn't answer what's important to you. Even praise stops helping because praise becomes predictable. You know what they'll praise if you act like everyone expects, so you act like everyone expects. It's comfortable, it's safe, and it slowly erases what was yours. The most insidious thing is you look put together from the outside. You're not sprawled on the floor, you're not disappearing, you're not breaking everything. You function. You might even grow. That makes it harder to notice the loss, because the loss isn't about results, it's about the feeling that your action is tied to you and not just to the system around you. When a dream becomes a plan, it becomes reproducible. It can be repeated without you, by your own hands. You feel that in the moments when everything is done right and nothing inside answers. In this room, with the fans hum and the keys clicks, the cool on your skin and the weight in your shoulders, you're not lazy and you're not broken. You simply reached the point where predictability ate the reward. You keep pretending it's a living dream because otherwise you'd have to admit what was personal became procedure. And this whole story isn't really about discipline or productivity, it's about how you quietly traded yourself for manageability.